Von Mad. This is kind of an addendum. The first part of this video, for some reason, did not take. So I'm going to have to show you kind of a quick walkthrough as to how I made the big tall cactus in the back. And probably the others. But I'll show you real quick. It's pretty easy when you look at it. I'm hoping that I've got enough of the footage on there. But I know for a fact this one here did not make the final cut because of the fact that the camera decided it wasn't going to record. What I did was I took two of these giants here. You can actually see it down through here. Hot glued these together, cut it off on this end to make them flat, and then kind of measured it up and hot glued them together. Now for these two right here, that comes from another giant stick, which I cut off and then kind of trimmed it down and rounded it. You could have used some sandpaper for that. I used a pair of scissors just to kind of cut the points off. I painted it a kiwi color, and I used the standard black to paint the lines. When you're painting the lines, you want to angle this in on the top, but I know that's later in the video and we've already done that part. But I just painted it both sides with that, and that's how that was done. This one here, same thing, just kind of round them off a little bit when I did it, and had these two right here. This one here, just cut off the ends of one of these big wide sticks. I just happened to have one laying handy. Cut it in half, and I think this part made the video. If it didn't, I'm sorry. Just give me a comment below and tell me if I'd missed something. Alright, bye-bye. Well, that was a little odd. Probably going to have to change the battery out here in a minute. We'll do that as it comes. Now, so if it goes dead, I'll change it out and you'll hear me in mid-sentence. Hopefully I'll try to keep in mind what I was saying when it does. Alright, we're going to make the prickly pear now. The prickly pear, just kind of cut this off. You might want to cut a little bit off the bottom of it. Now, we'll make some smaller offshoots on this thing. Maybe one big one upright, and I've got this scrap piece of wood right here, so we might as well just make use of it since it's in the neighborhood. Go ahead and cut it down like so. You got a sharp corner, cut that off. There we go. It's kind of an irregular pod, and that's as it should be. We'll go ahead and close up this paint. Grab our glue gun, and we'll start in. Now I'm going to put this one right up here on top, and that's going to be like the core of the prickly pear's attachment here. Maybe tilt it just a little bit. Now, we're going to put some baby offshoots this time rather than the big ones I used on this other one. Like I said, I'm not going to make this thing a duplicate, and if you're making these, you need to get like a cactus book so you can see exactly what species of cactus you're using. So we'll cut off this little shoot right there. We're going to glue that into place, and I'm going to glue one right here. And now we're going to cut another one like that. Cut it down. Try to keep this thing from... Oh, got some stringer. Now, come up here, cut this down. Now, we're going to come over here and we're going to put another one here. Kind of make it just a little bit. Now I got to get these stringers off my hands so that I can continue to function here. We're going to cut another one down like this. Now how many popsicle sticks? Well, that depends on how much cactus you're trying to build. So we're going to cut kind of... If you had some sandpaper, you could do this too. It's kind of, you want it smooth and round, or more rounded than anything else. So we're going to cut down like that. And like I said, it can be a little bit off kilter because you're dealing with nature here, and nature doesn't always make everything all spiffy. So we're going to cut now. We're going to cut this piece here off. Gotta get more stringer on me. Crazy stuff. Now, go ahead and glue maybe one right here. I know at this point it looks like a little bunny rabbit that's throwing a temper tantrum. Got this other piece of scrap wood right here that we're going to use. It's just another tongue depressor, so if you've got some scrap you want to use, by all means. Just remember, anytime you're doing something like this, your imagination is the limit. You are each a child of God. Daughters of Adam, or sons of Adam and daughters of Eve. As C.S. Lewis put it in the Narnia books. And that means that the voice of creation from the words, "Let there be light," is still echoing inside your heart. Never forget that. Never let anybody discourage it. Those who discourage it don't hear the voices. They don't hear that voice of creation. So don't get discouraged. My wife, she just picked up painting for the first time in 18 years, so I'm very proud of her. Now, but each one of you has the capacity for creation. And that is what we are now doing. Creating. The great thing about these end pieces is they're already cut on one end for us. Mother Nature done took care of that, or the people at the place that made these sticks did. I'll put that one right there. Now it's a little too symmetrical. I'm going to have to do something to fix that. That's driving me nuts. So, go ahead and trim this flat. I want this cut down. Now, we're going to have to put one here. And honestly, I'm thinking I'm going to have to put one. I've got to have an uneven number. This balance is driving me a little kooky. So we're going to cut down this one right here. Now remember, the sky's the limit. If you can figure this out, all sorts of plants and cacti and whatever are open to you here. Now let's get these. I got a stringer right in here that's going to have to go bye-bye. There we go. Because this is not an old man cactus. Now, put one more right up here top side. Now let's do something else over here, because we still got one more piece of stick left. Now, there we go. Let's go ahead and put this in place. Now what I'm going to do, is because I want it to be uneven, I'm going to make this one right here. Now, show you how we're going to paint this one. We're going to go over here and we're going to grab this marsh green. We're going to paint this marsh green. So let's get our paints out. Get our rag up here to clean off this brush. And hope the batteries will hold out here a minute. If they go out, like I said, don't worry, I will go get some more batteries and put it in. So let's get these stringers off here first, because these stringers are going to be the bane of your existence. Or at least they're the bane of mine. Now, again, follow the contour of the wood. It goes up and down. Just like the growth of the cactus will go up and down. And just follow the grain of the wood. That's what it's there for. And let's go up here, do likewise. See, now get a little bit of this extra paint right here. Here we go. I thought I was running out of some time. Went ahead and took care of that. We got a stringer. Now, paint our cactus. It's a lovely cactus. At least it will be when I'm done. If you think your paint's bleeding through, you can go back and put another coat onto it, or you can leave it looking all rustic, which is probably what I'm going to do. But it's still going to be a very sharp looking cactus. So we'll make it a slightly darker green, and I may even go and get my onyx black and put some black spines on him. Now we can make one more, or we could let that dry and go with what we got. Now we're going to turn back over here to our friend this cactus and see how he's drying. He's still drying. So we're going to go ahead and shut that one down. And I'm going to show you how to make a barrel cactus. Now these are a little bit tricky. I'm going to go with a bigger piece here to make this barrel. What you want to do here is cut that down, come up here, cut this piece down, save that because you can use it for a future project. What you want to do now is grab this, cut it in half, and it'll cut real easy because you're cutting along the grain. Now what you want to do is come over here on this side, and it goes down the side. Now remember, the barrel is going to be a little bit more delicate than the other two cactuses because you're gluing it on the edge. Now I'm going to come up here and just nibble that edge off that corner just a little bit. Now you've got this part done, so now you can come up here, do that. Now you can come up here on this side, close as you can, do that. Now this glues in place like so. Now as you will notice, it's not even, so we're going to trim that down to even it up. There we go. Maybe a little bit more so. And if it comes off, if you think your glue is going to act up, maybe you ought to get yourself some, get some of that Gorilla Glue that's got the multi-surface stuff, and that's going to set like that. Makes a little barrel cactus. It's not a complicated barrel cactus, but it's a barrel cactus. It'll do. Now we're going to grab ourselves some evergreen, and we're going to paint this cactus. Now he's going to be the darkest one of them all. Now I'm pretty sure the battery's going to go out before I finish, but we're going to use up this battery because I am cheap. I ain't going to lie. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, and I may end up getting some gold. Not gold paint like metallic, but some King's Gold, or bright kind of a yellow, to put the spines on this one, to paint the spines on, because I want this one here to be a golden barrel. And we're not quite done. I may glue one rock to this, but really, and this one here is going to take a little more time, because you're going to have to hold it in certain ways to paint it. You can't just paint it laying down like we did the prickly pear or the organ pipe. That's not going to quite cut it. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue. We're going to paint the sides we can, and then we'll get the last two when it all dries. And these need to be painted before it gets on. The reason is it's a pain in the neck trying to paint these cactuses once they are glued to the base. So that base is to be considered the point of no return unless you are particularly skilled with paints. And I'm not. Now, we're going to go ahead and make our sign. Now the sign, we can do a little bit of crazy stuff here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break off a piece. Now we're going to cut a little bit of jaggy jag here. I want it to be kind of a crude cut. We'll trim this down and up and down like that. And we're going to leave that right here because the way we're going to do this. Now we're going to get ourselves another couple of these popsicle sticks, and we're going to cut them down. We're going to cut them on both sides like this. Hey, on! Guys, I'll be back. Alright, guys, we're back. Had to touch base with Myra. She just come through the door, so I wanted to talk to her a minute. Now, we're going to get back to what we was doing. In this case, going to let our glue gun heat up while I work on our sign. Now, also at this time, I think our paint's done on the one side over here on these, so we can now paint the rest of our cactus. So we'll start with that. And then we'll get, while I'm waiting for this glue gun to heat up so I can do the sign. So the first thing we're going to do, now you could do a lot of things. The sky's the limit, really, as to what you want to do. In this case, I'm going to paint the last remaining side of this cactus. Oh, good, the King's Gold's already here. Now, let that dry a minute. We'll go ahead and get these other two cactuses done. I'll put this one over here once we're done with that. Now, then we can start working on the rest of this stuff. The kiwi, and that's going to be for the big cactus. So we'll put our signpost over here. Bring up the tall cactus. Apple barrel kiwi. I like the way the old school apple barrel paints were always apple red or apple green or purple or black or whatever. I always thought that was just kind of a signature paint color thing. I always thought that was a neat idea. They don't do it anymore, but I always thought it was a good thing. Of course, you know, that was in the 1980s. My personal opinion, the golden age of arts and crafts. That was when I grew. That was when I was growing up, you know. And I loved arts and crafts. Pom-poms, clay, whatever. I liked making stuff, and I still do. Like we said, it's that creative impulse. See, the grains on this thing go up and down. If you go crossways on it, it will not. It'll look funny. So, I might do this and come down with it and then kind of, because eventually you want all your strokes to go vertical. You want to follow the grain of this wood. And while this thing was down, I went ahead and put some new batteries in here, so we ought to be good for a bit. Put this over here. Now, wash my paintbrush. Put our kiwi over here for a bit. Actually, I'll put it back over here. Waiting for this glue gun to heat up. And now we'll work on the prickly pear. Now, for that, we've got the marsh green. Like I said, you kind of don't want to paint them all the same shade of green. You need some contrast, which is the reason I went with a lighter color in the front, in the back of this one. you'll notice in this one right here, I went with a lighter color in the back and then a slightly darker color in the middle and then the darkest color in the front, up to down in smaller shapes. Even in something as what people would call frankly kitschy, like this little sculpture here, this little wood sculpture. So that's what it really is. It's kind of a modular sculpture. It could also be considered a collage in a way because the fact that using a lot of different materials to make this diorama, there's a lot of names and a lot of things that this could go under. But we're going to have a little fun with it. So, because at the end of the day, the Almighty, when He said, "Let there be light," that was the first creation. And if you look through history, through the fossil record, you'll see the tools that God used to get us to the world that we see in front of us now. And that, my friends, is amazing. Oh, a little bit down here on this side that needs covered up. Now let's go ahead and do this. See, I crossed it up a little bit right there, and I'm going to have to come back and fix it. See, as you go, follow the wood grain. Because when we're done, you don't want this to look like it's made of wood. And a surefire way to make it look like it's made of wood is to go across the grain. You have to maybe do it a little bit right there where the hot glue is, but you're trying to avoid doing that as much as you can. See, I've got a little wood showing right there. Now, just got to be real gentle with this part because there's so many things glued together that this is a potential fracture point. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint both sides of this. Now, in the original, like I said, I didn't put as much detail on the back side of it because I already glued it on, but that was the first one of those I'd ever done. Still very happy with that one. Alright, we're going to let the cactuses dry for a few minutes while we work on our sign. Whoa, about lost my lid. Let me grab this lid. Now you could also use, if you so desire, a bit of Sculpey. Make yourself a cow skull or a wagon wheel or a sign that says quicksand or whatever. Put a little Mexican guy with his sombrero sitting on a siesta under the cactus or whatever. Now, gave our glue gun a chance to heat up, so that's what we're going to do next. We're going to come in on this side here where I got this paint on here by accident. We're going to glue this into place here. And I'm also going to glue a little bit on this side for the rest of the sign. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece right here. We're going to put it right up like that. Now you got yourself sort of a crude, broken looking, old withered sign. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to take, I'm going to go with a little bit of black. And I'll show you why. Because we're going to cover it up. We're going to cover it up, but I'm also going to wipe it off as we're doing it. Now for this, we're going to grab one of Martha's giant brushes because she was so kind as to leave them in the paint water over here. So what we're going to do is, well, I was going to try to do that, but there is, I'm going to have to use a different brush because this one here is stuck. But I don't want to use that one, that's too thin. There we go. We'll go for my battered old chisel brush here, which I like using, and it'll reach into the paint. Now I don't want to use that much black because we're not going to need that much black. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to get this into the wood grains. Now I will do this on both sides. Now down here remember, follow the wood grain. So you're going to have two different paint directions to go by. Now, put that back in here. And let's get our rag and do this. Now watch. Now, it looks dark now, but it won't for a minute. So now it's dry. And I don't want it to be completely dry, so now we're going to grab Dolphin Gray, which will also work really well as a withering agent. We could probably use a little brown too. Might go with a little brown first. Go with a little chocolate brown. And we'll wipe that off as well. So let me grab this rag, set the rag back up here on my lap. Grab my chisel brush and clean off the black paint. Always get it wet, make sure you can get off the paint easily. Now we'll come over here, get a little bit of this black paint on here, and just kind of slip this on here. You don't mind if it looks a little bit splintery or rough, because this is going to be a crude sign. Think about what you see in all those old cowboy movies. You know, Greasy Gulch, 2 miles or whatever. So, here goes. Now we take our rag and we clean this side off now. Remember, follow the grain. See, now that looks like a dark wood. That has been withered just a little bit. Now, we're going to use even less paint when we do the gray overstep. Now, that's where we're heading now. Kind of the withered. Now you got a little hint of some brown notes in there. You got a little black notes in there. Now we're going to go with the gray. Now we're not done with the black yet, because we're going to be using it for a multitude of purposes in this project. So, you'll notice I just broke at one side off on the sign. I wanted it to look like it was kind of haphazard. See? Maybe somebody's taking a shotgun blast to the corner or whatever. Maybe Black Bart's been using it for target practice. You know, that would be a cool thing to do with this. Kind of make it look like somebody has shot bullet holes in your sign. I got some stringers. Alright, now watch this. Now here you can actually go a little bit across the grain with, because you want it to look like wood here. When you did it with the cactus, you didn't want it to look like wood. Now you want it to look like gray, weathered wood. And I'll probably hit it a couple of times, maybe add a little white into the next batch of gray that I add on here. Kind of, I want to pop this wood grain a little bit. So we're going to hit it good here. Maybe kind of just, because it's got to look a little bit streaky, and that's fine. See, now that looks like old weathered wood. Now turn it this way, and we do the same thing over here. It's kind of the, you don't want it to look like actual brush strokes, but you do want to have like maybe the sand's beating up against it or something. And now see, I got a little bit too much gray here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dab some of it off with my rag here and see how that looks. We got some spots where it's a little too thick. Right here's one of them. Now, let's go down here, follow the wood grain this time, because you're not wanting to take off as much paint as you want to leave on here. Just kind of smooth it in. What you're doing right here is something similar to weathering, making something look older than it actually is. In this case, I want a sign that looks like it's been rode hard and put up wet. Now, I was going to use, okay, I actually have 3 things of white. I have no idea why she brought 3 things of white in here. Alright, well, we're going to use white paint, I think, for our sign. I was going to use black, but I think with this sign, using a little chalk or whitewash type paint would be more what they would have used in the old West, because it would have stood up on that old pieces of wood. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here. Now I got to figure out a name here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it like this. See if I can get a... Actually, I don't want to use that one. I want to use a smaller paint. I need a smaller brush to write with. Because you're not wanting big, clunky, big, kludgy letters. You need little, tiny letters. So... See, you just kind of want it to look kind of hand painted. Well, that's kind of what you're going to be doing here. Then kind of have maybe a sign right there where it shows where an arrow had been before Black Bart came along and blew it away with his 12 gauge. Let's see how our paint's coming here. Greasy Gulch. Alright, that's still a little bit wet. Let me check this one. Still a little bit wet. Let's check on this one now. Still a little bit wet. So, tell you what. We're going to stop this for a moment here, and I'm going to let this paint dry, and we'll be back with you in a... Hey guys, we're back. And now we're going to get started on the next part of this here project. Make sure my glue gun is turned on while I am painting the other sides of our plants. Now I have brought out another paint color, if it's any good. Is black tie, basically kind of a silvery black. We'll use it for our prickly pear. I also brought out some red and yellow pipe cleaners I'm going to use to make little cactus flowers. So, with no further ado, let's begin. We're going to start with the tall cactus. Now what we're going to do, we're going to be using a regular black on him. If you'll notice on the tall cactus here, I put lines through it. We're going to do the same thing. So, let me get this out. Get myself a nice, fairly fine point brush. It ain't perfect, but it'll do the job. Now, go ahead and do it. And do it to it. Alright, so see what we're doing here. It don't have to be perfect. You do want it to be solid enough that you can see it. I'm trying to keep it thin. It's a little thicker than I like, but we'll see if we can do with it. So it's going to come right up here besides this arm. Turn this around where I can do this over here. Do the same thing up here. You don't really have to paint the back of it. You can. I mean, the sky is really the limit here. You're the artist. This is your scene you're putting together. Now, I'm going to paint this one here coming up here because I'm not going to get all of it here. So, I'm going to try to paint one more line coming up right here. Now when you're painting the arms, these offsets, you want to kind of curve it a little coming out from here. you also want to kind of curve this coming down from here. See, like so. Now, you're going to come up here. We're going to arc this around. Kind of, you're wanting to give the illusion of 3 dimensions. Now, the middle one don't have to be as bad. You can kind of use your own judgment on that. Alright. Now, go ahead and do this one. I painted the back of it. I may end up leaving the back of it unadorned. I just colored it back there, because the business end's going to be what's out in front of you. I mean, you could paint the other side if you want it to where it can be observed from three different dimensions. But let's face it, I'm putting the sign on the front side of it, so it don't make no sense to be doing otherwise. Push this down into my water. And we'll put this one to one side and let it dry a little bit. See? That is one cactus. We're going to set him over here and let him dry. We're going to bring up next the barrel cactus. Now for this one here, like I said, what I want to use is a barrel cactus, in this case a golden barrel. Let me see if I can find a picture of a golden barrel I wanted to show you. There's propagation. Got this book from the library. Let me see if I can find it here for you. Cactuses of all different types. Plant catalog. Alright. What I'm thinking is something with a spine similar to that, even though I don't have, it's more of a flared out sort of. I ain't got but 4 little flanges coming off of it. I mean, you could put as many as you got patience for. I only have the patience for the 4 tines here. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to get our same little pointy brush, clean her off good so you don't cross-contaminate your paint. Now, we're going to paint the spines onto this one. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to put just kind of a hint of spines. You don't want any actual spines because this thing's going to be on a table probably, or on a shelf where little ones will get a hold of it. So you don't want anything really pokey coming off of it. You don't want anything pokey. Point of art, most of the time, is not to be dangerous. Now, I'll remember that next time I build a catapult. I probably won't remember it next time I build a catapult. Oh well. Now, we'll put this to one side. And now we're going to see if this metallic black is worth its salt. Now, so let's grab this. And let's see how this looks. Let's see if I can get this thing open. I ain't had this thing opened in a coon's age. Okay, I got her popped open. Let me shake her up good. You know yourself, paint separates over time. So let's bring this around. You definitely don't need to paint the back of this one because of the fact that it's going to be straight up in the middle. The only one that you might have an argument about needing the back is the tall cactus. Let's see what this does now. Now remember, when you're putting these on, it's kind of little dots. You can put maybe slightly elongated if you're wanting to hint at spikes. Maybe a little black tines or whatever coming off of it. And as you can see, I think this paint's going to do just snazzy. You still use that word? I like the word snazzy. Now, put another one here. this is the one that's going to get some of the flowers. I think I may put yellow flowers on this one and red on the little barrel cactus. Even though, to be frank with you, the tall cactus can also get red flowers. I believe pink would have also been a good choice here. Alright, now lay this to one side. Well, let's go ahead and get our flowers glued on here. Now for that, if you've ever seen cactus flowers, and I will have a video in the morning, I've got some good news regarding one of my plants. Let's cut this off. Got a little fluff right here. Now what we're going to do is kind of fold it down just a hair. So you don't want it sticking out too much, but you do need enough to make a little bit of a tuft on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here and just kind of do that. Just kind of a little hint of a flower coming off of it. Let's put another couple of them on there. Where's my yellow? Here we are. I'm going to do a couple of them. And then we'll paint the base and start gluing stuff together. Or start gluing stuff together and then paint the base. Huh. Thought I heard something. Alright. And I may end up going in there with a fine brush because I'm looking at it now and realizing that some of this is still getting a little bit of wood shining right there. I do not like that. I'll go ahead and cover this up and we'll get a fine point brush and take care of that real quick. Put a couple of flowers on it and I think that looks good. Let's go ahead and clean off our brush. And I'm going to grab our marsh green and see if I can touch that up just a hair. I mean, you ought to be able, you can see what I'm talking about right in here. Right around the joints. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and touch that up. Right around the joints. There we go. Now, go ahead and glue our plants and sign and everything else together. And I'm probably going to end up using, like I said, the Gorilla Glue contact stuff because, at least for the rocks, these rocks don't like the hot glue very well and they will pop off. Okay, we're going to go from front to back on this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the glue gun, which should be ready by now. And we're going to glue this into place right here. And I'm going to put plenty of glue here. And you may have to hold it a minute till the glue settles. So, and you hold it there and glue around it. It should. And don't worry about the glue being too much down here because you're going to paint the whole thing kind of a buff colored sand anyway. So it don't really matter. Now if you were really crafty and you had a Dremel tool or something, you could Dremel out a hole there, but I ain't got one of those. I ain't rich, folks. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use the, whoa, we got a tumbler. Let that dry a second. We'll let that dry for just a second while I go ahead and work on the flowers on our barrel cactus. Now for this, I'm just going to put a couple of them up on top. I mean, you could probably use little pom-poms to put offsets or whatever on here. I'm going to put one little flower on top just to kind of give it a little splash of color. Lend a little color to these otherwise monochromatic proceedings. Can anybody tell me what movie that is from? Comment below. Now, see if this is hardened up enough to suit me. And it has. Okay. Now, we're going to use our sign next. I'm going to raise our camera up just a hair so you can see what I'm doing. Our sign for Greasy Gulch. It's going in right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, put a little glue on it. Now you could have put a base on it and done all that, but what's the point? We are going to put glue around the front and set our glue gun down. I don't want it leaning against our cactus, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it right here. Let that dry a minute. So, how are you liking the way this project's turning out so far? Like I said, let me know. Anybody that'll tell me what movie that one quote I just gave you. I'll go over it one more time. Lending some color to these otherwise monochromatic proceedings. If you'll leave me a comment below, first person to leave me a comment below, I will give them a shout out. So, see how this is coming along, and she's ready. See, now we got our sign that says Greasy Gulch. Next comes the prickly pear. Now it's going to be a little tricky painting all of this, but all you really got to do is paint what's visible. So what we're going to do here, now I'm going to grab another glue stick for starters. Let's see how many minutes we got left. We got 4 minutes left on this particular set. I'll probably have to restart it and do the next section. This is going to be a fairly long video. I'm going to put plenty of glue, and I'm going to put some glue right here. Now, we're going to bring this up, tear this down here, push this one into place. May end up putting it to the side just a hair. So I don't want it interfering with the sign. Well, maybe a little bit of interfering with the sign. It's like it's not a well maintained, maybe a ghost town or something. Yeah, okay. We'll make sure I had all that spine work that I'd done on this thing out in the front. Now see, that one's going to hold up pretty good on its own. And that's okay, because we're going to put our paint here once again to kind of lean it forward a little bit. We're going to let it do its thing and kind of push this up here. I don't want it sticking in my paint jug. Whoa, we got a faller. Let me go ahead and squish in some of this glue up here on it, and hopefully keep it from falling over while we are doing this. Go ahead and put a little more glue up here on the front to kind of keep this from falling over. Like I said, it ain't gonna matter if you use a lot of glue around here holding these things up, because you're gonna paint over it anyway. So just got to get rid of these spider webs. The last thing we need is all this stuff to look like it's been hit by a 50-foot tarantula. Now, let's take a look at our third plant now. That's going to be our barrel, and it's going to be sitting maybe right here. I don't want it sitting off the side, but we may end up having to. Kind of like that. I don't know, I may want it out here, maybe sticking out. It can stick out a little bit. I mean, something's gonna have to stick over the side of it, and that might as well be what it is. And we will put some glue under here and under here. I probably could shear off a little more of that, but we'll see if we can get her to stick like that. See, now he'll also act to hold up our prickly pear while it dries. If he bends a little bit, like I said, these things don't always grow upright anyway. Even in a desert, they don't always grow upright. So, our sign is partially obscured. That's about as good as you're going to expect. Let's take a look at it so far. We're almost done. Here's your sign that says Greasy Gulch. Unfortunately, there's a prickly pear halfway covering it. Must have grew up after Black Bart blasted it with a shotgun. Now, let's go ahead and add our last feature. Now, I can unplug the glue gun at this point because we're not using it now. Let's go to our cactus rocks. I kind of like this one, even though it's not as sandstony looking as some of these. I want some that kind of sandstony looking. So we'll go with these two. I don't want too many big rocks on this one. Now, let's go ahead and paint our sand into place, and I'll leave the space for the two rocks open. We're going to go with some khaki. And I'll show you how we're going to paint this. We're going to paint everywhere that this thing can be seen. So it means between the cactuses and stuff's probably not as big a deal, because you're not going to be seeing that as often. And as I was saying before the film ran out, we're going to go ahead and paint the base. Like I said, if you've got a little extra hot glue on it, it is of no consequence. If you get a little of your sand up onto your cactus, it is also of no consequence, because how often do you see sand being 100% flat? So we're going to come up underneath here. I wouldn't get it all the way up onto the shaft up here, but you can get some around here on this side. Ooh, we got a tippler. We got a tippler. You got to remember that. Don't let that scare you any. Really, I should have painted the back side of this, but it'll be all right. I'm just kind of touching it up a little bit so that you can see it from a lot of angles. But I should have painted the back of the sign. Oh well. I don't think it's going to hurt anything. And like I said, the main thing that you're wanting them to see is the sign up on the front. And as any good magician will tell you, misdirection is key. This is more like a Hollywood movie set at this point. I'm painting the back of this because I figure that it might actually end up looking, you can see underneath the cactus to the back. So see, now you can't really see the back of it, but you can see the front of it and the sides of it. Now, go ahead and put up our paints. Go ahead and get our glue tipped out here, and let's get this thing done, shall we? Like I said, this is perfect for doing your if you got a Tex-Mex dinner you need a centerpiece for, if you like the desert or cowboy themed or Old West or Mexican themed or whatever. Desert themed, which is what I like, because a lot of the plants I've got don't come from Mexico or even the Southwest, and some of them not even from the New World. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of this glue here. I actually love this stuff. I just got it in my first tube the other day. Let that set for a couple of minutes. Set this one down, let it cool, let it do its thing for a couple of minutes, and let's do the other one, this other rock, the same way. I'll put a little glue right up here at the base of our sign, and we're going to put a little glue on the flat side of our little pink sandstone here. We're going to let that, it says to let it set for a couple of minutes to kind of let it get tacky. So, what do you guys think? I think it looks nice. We got our organ pipe cactus. We got our other one now. Let's go ahead and put these on here. It ain't been 2 minutes, but it's close enough. I'll slide that rock into place here. And this one is going to go in right here. We're going to let those two set. Now you do want to let this glue dry till morning. You need to let it dry for 24 hours. So, there you are. two cactus scenes right there. Made out of popsicle sticks and common craft supplies. It's not what you got, it's how you do it. It's what you use it with it. God gave each one of us a perfectly good brain, an imagination that can still hear the echoes of His very words of creation. And these, the human hands, the most precision implements ever designed. And He gives us the mind to invent things like hot glue guns and this glue over here and paint brushes and the machines to build the popsicle sticks and the imagination to put these things together into something that we would recognize. Now, each and every one of you's got the ability to create. So, let's see some more creations coming out, shall we? This is Dr. Von Mad. If you like this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to get notified. Don't forget to follow us on Patreon, Pinterest, and Facebook. And I will see you guys, one and all, on the flip side. Now go put that hand, that heart, and those hands, that heart, and that head to work. Bye-bye.